there, and welcome to Reflections with Rhonda Jones and my co-host, Monica Livingston.
Hello.
Today we have our panelist. I don't want to call you normal panelists because some of y'all aren't exactly normal. No. Regulars. Our regulars. Let's just say our panelists because that's the way it is. Introduce yourselves, ladies.
I'm Kimberly Johnson.
Ruthie Wyburn.
And today we have a guest. Her name is Esta Ann. And without further ado, we're going to have her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Esta Ann Ammerman, and I'm part of the Cult of Honesty. And that's it.
Yes, she
That's all I'm
is.
sharing.
Yeah, sometimes she's the only female on the Google Hangout on Wednesday nights, and we're always rooting for, not that we're trying to divide men and women, but it's when you see a woman up there, we just get excited about it.
Well, she was gung-ho. She's ready to get out on the campuses, drive the New Covenant Group van, of which we'll be buying the stickers. I've already promised her. And, going and helping to get more people in on the discussion. So I think that's fabulous. And so, yeah, we applaud her big time.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be a part of it, and I welcome this opportunity, and thank you for inviting me today.
Now, we extended the opportunity for you to be on our show, but we didn't discuss topics at that time. But a few things have, developed to bring us to this point today concerning our topic. And yet last week we mentioned a girl that, teenage girls wear clothes that often parents aren't too excited about or impressed with. And then the dad cut off his shorts to make him short, trying to teach her a lesson. And we made a few comments concerning things that we were taught and how we feel. And Esta Ann, you're from New Jersey, correct? Or you live in New Jersey?
I live in North Jersey by Giant Stadium.
Okay, awesome. Alrighty. Well, you have quite an opinion concerning that subject. Do you mind sharing a little bit about why this subject is so important to you?
Okay, sure. First of all, I think it's important that we address it in perspective. We were talking about dressing modestly and how today a lot of the young women are accused of dressing a little too promiscuous. But if you look at it, dressing modestly is not exactly the same thing as the modesty doctrine. You can dress conservatively without believing in the former, the modesty doctrine. And what is modesty doctrine? And this is what I'm passionate about. The modesty doctrine that I'm speaking of is, here's a definition from an article called Modesty, Body Policing, and Rape Culture. And the definition here by Suzanne Kalulu is the belief that women need to cover their bodies to prevent men from being attracted to them, because sexual attraction is lust that leads to sin and death for both. The modesty doctrine is not the same as wearing conservative clothing. You can do the latter without believing the former. The modesty doctrine is found in fundamentalist Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, with milder echoes in mainstream Western culture. And I see that that's where we get the confusion. Parents want girls to dress modestly for appropriate reasons, not because, and that's the echo in the Western culture, but not for the reasons of the modesty doctrine. That's a problem for me because it puts the onus on the woman for what they're saying. It's not fair to the men either, that they have these uncontrollable urges. That's ridiculous. So that's why when people talk about, they shouldn't wear short things, well, I'm not so sure I'm in agreement there.
Alrighty. Now, when you mentioned the word fundamentalism, and you made it clear that you weren't just talking about Christianity, because Muslims obviously are fundamental when it comes to their women being covered for different
Right.
reasons, right? And then Judaism. I'm not all that familiar with their
Well,
modesty doctrine there.
Well, the Christianity and Judaism, I think it's all the same. It's to prevent uncontrollable urges of men and to have them think about sex, and where they see sex as a sin and they equate that with lust. Where really part of sexuality, it's normal physiologic response, and it is controllable and it's quite normal and it's not a sin and it's not lust. And that's where I think the religions of the world kind of get people confused, and people don't even think about this. Jimmy Carter has a coalition right now of leaders throughout the world, throughout all religions. And they've been meeting for about a year. And there's a video with him talking about this. And he says flat out in the video that, let me see if I have his quote here. Religion is one of the causes of violence against women and the oppression of equality for them. He talks about how, because of these preconceived ideas which are imposed on women within these religions, it limits them in their ability to become who they want to be. And they're held down and they're oppressed, and there's a lot of violence against it. There's other doctrines that they equate this to a rape culture. And I'm not sure how to explain that, or if I can really get there, but I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Joey, do you have that slide or that picture from David Hayward, the naked pastor? By the way, he says hello. There's one that is two men and they're talking. One is saying, "These are unbelievable words. Who's going to buy this?" And the other man says, "We'll tell them God gave them to us." And in the Abrahamic faith, in the Old Testament, it talks about this kind of stuff as women being the cause of so much and how they're dirty. And in fact, in the Talmud, even their voices shouldn't be heard because it's a stimulus. And these mindsets have got to die.
Well, that is a fact there. I certainly agree with that. And we all remember Jimmy Carter. I want to go back to that. When he said that he had, lust in his heart. That was a big thing for him to go through, because he was a Sunday school teacher, a Southern Baptist, probably a lay pastor. And when he admitted to having lust in his heart, it seemed like the world went crazy. Do you think, Esther Ann, that a man can look on a woman who might be wearing less than you would? Go ahead, Caitlin.
The less than what you would define as conservative?
Yeah, well, no, because modesty.
I don't know what that means.
Modesty is very subjective. What I think is modest, and what Ruthie thinks is modest,
Right.
and Kimberly, these are all so confusing sometimes. And I might get pinpointed. I'm trying to show something off when. These women wouldn't do that to me, but by another woman when I'm thinking I'm very modest. And so the crux of this is definitely, to me, religion and fundamentalism. And I think, have you ever had a situation, Esther Ann, that you were encountered by someone who said, "Hey, I think you're dressing inappropriately"?
No, I haven't had the clothing issue. I've had the "you shouldn't be talking with the men" issue, but I haven't, no. But I do hear it a lot in our town, in our public school. My daughter was faced with the challenge of confronting the faculty in not wanting to have uniforms for a public school. And we went to the PTA meeting, and I was horrified at the comments that, look at these little girls, they look like sluts. And I've got to tell you, they didn't. They're just shopping in the junior section of JCPenney. Mm-hmm. And people have really opinions, and it says a lot more about what's going on in their mind more than what's actually being shown by the girl. And then why is everything always called to the woman's body? It makes them focus on it more. In Islam, in the group, Shane was saying in one of our conversations, he wondered why porn is outrageous, and prostitution and all these horrific crimes against women, and they're covered up all the time. Well, it's called to their attention so much more by covering them up, I believe, than if they were free in the Western world to dress appropriately, where people get used to it and they see them as people and not as objects. We're always talking about a woman's body, what's covered up for appropriate for the man, and what's not appropriate. And sometimes women go through, well, oh my God, is he looking at my chest? I have to stand like this. In high school, I walked around like this. I mean, come on. I really should be concentrating on my studies. All this pressure, but they can handle it. This is abusive to the men, too, to suggest that they can't have a normal conversation and get to know a woman. It causes such separation of the sexes as people, and sharing and becoming spiritually intimate, emotionally intimate as brothers and sisters. If you can't talk to somebody because you're worried about where their eyes are going to wander, I mean, really, what's the point of even getting together and trying to do church? I mean, it's ridiculous, in my opinion. I didn't grow up in this culture. I was raised I had the echoes of the Western cultures and people's opinion of what's appropriate and what's not, and that's harmless. But this fundamentalist attitude of all the religions, as Jimmy Carter was saying, this is a huge problem. This is a huge problem. And it objectifies women, and it prevents men and women from really communicating and establishing really good relationships.
Right. I don't know if you caught this that Ruthie was sharing last week about the way her mother taught Ruthie and her sisters to dress and the custom of the time. Now, Ruthie, she is a little older than the rest of us, but she doesn't look it. But she is. So she was in a different day and time, but everybody had the same bodies and the same minds. But Ruthie, go ahead with that story about you walking from place to place.
Yeah, when I was between 10 and 12, to walk to my friend's house, although I had shorts on, I had to put a skirt on because ladies don't show their legs in public. And I played with them in my shorts, but when I started to walk back home on the highway, I had to put my skirt back on. Not just me, my sisters too, and one of them was quite young, but that was the way she was raised, and I still to this day feel uncomfortable wearing shorts. I know there's not anything wrong with it, but I feel uncomfortable, so I don't wear them as a general rule. So,
well, that's wonderful. Whatever makes you feel comfortable, Ruthie, is appropriate. But I don't think that if I wore shorts that you'd have a negative opinion about that. Would you?
No, not really, I don't think. It's just, maybe I don't like the way my legs look. I don't know.
Yeah, right. So that's all harmless. But that's different. See, that's the perspective. We're not talking about dressing modestly, which is fine. We're talking about this modesty doctrine that objectifies women, prevents men from talking to them, keeps them out of leadership positions, keeps them out of conversations, causes the belief that, I worked for a pharmaceutical company, and this was only in the early 1990s. And I had a partner, a young man, and we covered the Newark territory in New Jersey. We did really, really well. And my manager actually said to me, you know, one of us was going to get a promotion out of this. This literally happened. And he was a fundamentalist pastor, by the way, who had a secular job. And that was the deciding factor for me. He said, you know, Richie is engaged now, and he's a young man, and he's going to have to support a family. So, and you're a little bit older now, and it's about time you settle down and have some babies.
Oh, no way.
After like 5 years of college and like working my ass off and producing just as much, and I'm like, I've been married for 5 years. Does this guy think that maybe I can't have kids, or my husband can't have kids? Does he really care? Or maybe I was working on my career first and planning the family later. And how does he know that I don't make 4 times my husband's salary, which actually at the time was the case, and I needed it to support the household. So like all these preconceived, the way it should be, imposed values that come from their religious basis on people that want that.
Right, and the expectation that all women have to have kids. You know, that's their job,
Exactly.
that's their duty in life. Because there are some women out there that just, let's face it, don't want to have kids or don't need to have kids.
I have no need to have grandchildren to feel fulfilled. That's my daughter's. That's her life. If she wants children, that's wonderful. I'll welcome them. But a lot of parents actually pressure their kids to get married and to have kids and to do everything like the way they see their reality. And I don't know if I'm getting off topic, but I have another quote I wanted to read to you. When I was going through, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I never even thought about these things. It was about 10 years ago when I got involved in more of a Pentecostal, a fundamentalist view, legalistic, Old Testament attitude, what was appropriate and what was not appropriate for women. And I was like, I didn't even know what the rules were. People were like looking at me like something was wrong with me. And I had no idea. I was like, oh, they're just not very friendly here. I had no idea. So I was researching what it means to love. What did Jesus mean by love your neighbor as yourself? Would you like alienate them? So when I was doing my research, I came across this book called Sacred Unions, Sacred Passions. It's written by Dan Brennan. And he gave me this quote on modesty dress. The modesty dress doctrine objectifies women, their bodies, their freedom, and their authentic, responsible choices for creative freedom. It also objectifies men in the sense of promoting their sexual power over women. It promotes an unhealthy view of men as being unable to discern the difference between a lust-filled vision and a healthy vision of relational beauty.
Well, that's a powerful comment. You sent a lot of information to me that I got to share with the ladies. And,
good.
And it was really something that I wanted to read. It was about the father that wanted to talk to the son about women.
Right. That was very nice.
It was really good. And in the conversation, it says, "It is a woman's responsibility to dress herself in the morning. It is your responsibility to look at her like a human being, regardless of what she is wearing." Now, that being said, both those statements, I believe, are true, factual, and offer great advice. But I'm going to put a but here and try to play the devil's advocate a little bit. If a woman works, say we have the Pensacola Naval Air Station out here, and we have a lot of workers out there. 2 women come to work. One of them dresses in what the social norm would be, possibly chest covered, maybe a skirt, whatever, showing her legs, that's fine. But the other one comes in with, low cut, a lot of cleavage, blah, blah, blah. Just this, the stereotypical, what some people would say is a promiscuous look. Now, these two women are both trying to be people that are making, powerful decisions and in the workforce. And do you think that a male supervisor or male coworkers will look at these the same because of their is it their bodies or their dress?
I wouldn't know, but all I can say is, if you know your boss, then I think that if he's cool and in the Western culture and in Europe, there are women that have cleavage showing and they do just fine in business and the guys can handle it. They're used to nude beaches. It doesn't affect them. If this guy socially and culturally isn't used to that, then I would respect that. I'm not used to that culturally. That is not my choice. It's probably why I've never had this issue. But I don't make judgments on other women who do, and I definitely don't think a guy should if it is appropriate. I mean, if she's in her bra, that's inappropriate. But if it's a little bit low, get over it. But it has to be culturally appropriate. So if I was in Italy, I don't think they'd have a problem. It wouldn't even be an issue. They wouldn't even been thinking about it.
Right.
If it's here on a naval base and it's an issue, then you know what? You have to conform a little bit.
Yeah, I think, when in Rome, do as the Romans, that old saying. Kimberly, what are some of your thoughts on this? What I proposed about the two ladies at work, which one do you think will be taken more seriously?
Well, I'm agreeing with Esther, and you're going to have to play it what's culturally acceptable in that workplace. That if it's, like she said, in Italy and nobody's going to care, then it's not going to be a big deal. But we do have work environments, and you do have standards in a work environment, and I think that's not really the same thing as the modesty doctrine, where they're being objectified, but just
Right.
the conservativeness of the workplace is what you have to consider.
That is true.
It goes both ways, with my daughter, there's really good looking guys in the classroom, all right? And it's hot and they don't have air conditioning. Some of the athletes, they'll take their t-shirt, they'll raise it up over their head and wipe their face and expose those muscles. And my daughter goes, Ma, OMG. It works both ways. It's funny, right?
I was just talking to Rhonda about that it's depending. I mean, it really depends on what you're comfortable with and what other people are comfortable with, because a woman might be used to dressing with low-cut shirts, but yet if she's going to be teaching a class at school,
Exactly.
think about the people you're going to be around, because I've been places and people have been running around without their shirts on, men, and I don't feel comfortable having a conversation with them. That's just me, maybe, but that's what it is. But if a woman was to run around without her shirt on, Lord have mercy. You know what I mean?
Right. Unless you're in Rome.
Yeah. Well, and in that instance, like you were talking about culturally, I was on the beach with my kids, and we were in a secluded little area. It was before beach season, and it was not even a main beach. It's a little side street down on the bayou here near where we live. And there were some people that were on jet skis, and the woman got off the jet ski and took off her vest and walked over there to me and my children. And I found out through talking with her that she was from Brazil, and she had next to nothing on. Only thing you didn't see on her chest was her nipples. I mean, to be honest.
Jesus Christ.
And my kids were right there. I have a 5-year-old son, and I have it was a 7-year-old daughter at the time. And I was sitting and she was standing, so to have a conversation with her, I mean, I was looking full view at her. It was very hard to look just at her face. And I felt uncomfortable, and I felt uncomfortable because my kids were there and seeing this. But I understood that in her culture, that's probably pretty close to the norm for a lot of women.
Right.
Like Mo, have you ever looked at a woman that was wearing something like that and were like, God, you're sexy? Like in your mind, just say it, yes or no.
All right, confession time, Rhonda. No, I mean,
I was like, wow, girl.
That you know, the woman's outfit,
Looking
you know,
good.
was, you know, had sex appeal or whatever. It didn't mean I liked the woman, but you know, I mean, the dress was a revealing dress, or was, you know, had that sexual appeal to it.
To you.
Well,
Okay, go ahead, Estan.
now let's go back to what's inappropriate. Okay. This was published in Plumline. It's a Charisma magazine online. A pastor cancels a wedding over a sexy dress, persecuted for modest mindset. All right, I can't see the dress, but
You need to see the dress. Click on the link in that report that says report, and you will see the dress.
And
It's
how
a
long
pretty
was it?
revealing dress.
Wow,
Well-
you went and clicked on the link. Oh.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
did.
I
I was
don't-
curious if there was
Yeah,
a
I saw the
picture of the
dress.
dress. I don't agree
And
that
I
he should have
think-
canceled the wedding. He ruined that
Yeah,
woman's wedding day.
exactly. That's a little bit too much. Over her dress?
All right,
No,
yeah,
that-
Ruthie, they canceled the wedding. The pastor
Minutes before her
minutes
wedding.
before the wedding because her dress was too revealing.
Show off cleavage.
Well-
Do you know? I'm sorry, because my kids. You have to go on my Facebook page. I have 2 daughters and 4 nieces, and those are the dresses in J.C. Penney. And it goes above as long as everything is covered there. I don't think anybody should have anything to say and make that type of a judgment about somebody's life over a dress.
Well, my problem with it, Estan, is that he comes in and instead of just telling the woman right out, you know, she wasn't a member of his congregation. I think that was the first problem. He didn't know her, didn't know her taste, didn't know what she would be modest or immodest, and he probably should have. Second of all, he comes in and minutes before her wedding, or 45 minutes before her wedding, I think it was, said, "Where's the other half of your dress?" Making a wisecrack. He didn't come out and say, you know, I'm not going to feel comfortable performing the ceremony if this is all you're going to be wearing. You know, what can we do about this? He should have done that months before in counseling or whatever, or in talking to her about the wedding. And then he waits, and then he sends a member of his staff or the clergy or from his church or whatever and says, "Where's the other half of your dress?" Again, not, "There's a problem. Do you know if anybody has a jacket you can wear?" Or can we find another skirt to put over the top of the one you're wearing that, you know, is up thigh high? You know, he just keeps continuing this same line of wisecrack. And then when she responds, "This is all there is. This is what I have to wear," then he comes out and says, just minutes before her wedding, that he's not going to perform the ceremony.
That is a terrible use of authority. Terrible. Disrespectful to her.
Was the groom unhappy with the dress?
I wouldn't.
I
think
would
so.
say not,
If
but
she-
I mean, if
yeah,
it
I
was
would
me,
say-
that would have been what I worn in
Yeah,
the room
if-
the night
if-
for the honeymoon, not
If
for the
she
wedding.
was comfortable and if her husband was comfortable,
Exactly.
you don't judge. I mean, people have to dress the way they're comfortable. That's the way I dress, the way I do. Now, both my sisters wear shorts. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference to me, you know. So, you don't
mean,
judge
the-
people. I
the
know a
co-
lady in her late 50s, and she loves to go around her house without her clothes on. She's perfectly comfortable. When people come, she puts something on and covers herself up. She doesn't do it in front because she says everybody is not comfortable with their body, and she says, and I am, and she loves to do her housework without any clothes on. That's fine, you know.
Definitely be
She's-
cooler.
she is not putting that on anybody else. She doesn't go to her door and open her door without clothes on. She puts something on before she opens the door. So, and I appreciate that she, but she says, I don't mind. She said, I wouldn't mind living in a world where nobody wore clothes, you know. So,
I think if we were all naked, we wouldn't have this issue. I believe that. I just believe, like we were saying earlier, we would all see everybody's business and then it would be old news. You know what I'm saying? Kind of. What do you think, Estam?
Yeah, absolutely. And then if we weren't indoctrinated with all of this, I know that we've been taught that, cover yourself up because, you don't want to call too much attention to you. You don't want people to think you are, I don't know if this is an appropriate word for the show, but a slut. These are your options in Christianity and Islam and Judaism. Women, you're either a slut, a virgin, or a wife. You're not a woman like there are men. They have to label us according to our bodies and according to sex. And it's all from the Old Testament perspective.
Right.
And it all, if you look at it from an evolutionary standpoint as well, our bodies were designed for the tasks that we used to do. Men were hunters. They have a lower percentage of body fat and increased muscle mass. And so they can run after their prey. Women were more sedentary. They did a lot of the gathering of the food and taking care of the children and nurturing. Our bodies are like 25% fat, 20 to 25% fat. Obviously, the men find that attractive and we find the muscles attractive, or many have differences today because we don't play those roles anymore. Things are changing. The male and female role has changed. So I'm not sure why the guys don't think that if they don't cover up, it's not a problem. And why is it okay, that they're loose, and we have to be virgins, but that's not something that they really, oh yeah, you could get away with it. You're a guy, like what is that? I don't get it. It all comes from this religious mindset. And you know what? There's a article here by David Hayward again, talks about the need for virgins. Is a girl talking to her mom, Mom, why is there so much pressure for me to be pure? And the mom says, because our culture needs virgins to sacrifice to its fantasies. It's like, you're a good girl, so we'll save them for later and we'll use the slut now. Why don't we talk about men that way?
Well, I was told that by my mom, when I started dating and stuff and in high school. She said, I just want to let you know that not all men are like this, but most men want to date the slut, they want to marry the virgin, and then when you're their wife, they want you to be a little bit of both, they don't want you to be a virgin again, but they want you to be the good wife, but act slutty at times, so.
And then what about our culture and big business? Sex sells. So these same fundamentalists that own large market shares in these companies that objectifies women and shows the naked bodies all over the TV. The TV makes an impression on the children. It shapes our culture. It shapes what sells in the stores. And then they say, it's like the pressure on us is unbelievable. So I decided that from now I really don't care what anybody thinks. I'll define myself, thank you. Like David's daughter said in the article, you could think of me and label me slut, virgin, wife, whatever you want to call me. It'd be nice if you called me a woman, but
right.
I'll define myself, thank you. And I'm really not interested in what you think.
Right. Now we have some viewer comments. Monica, would you read some of them, please?
Yeah, I'm going to just read down them. It says, viewer comment, but isn't what Esta Ann's suggesting is that we need to change our cultural norms, that the current cultural norms box in the role of women way more than men?
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Another viewer comment says most workplaces have a somewhat conservative dress code, and I would agree with that. Most workplaces do have,
for both men and women.
Yeah, for all. Another viewer comment, but how would he know what her dress looked like before the wedding? And I understand that, but if you establish, if he's expecting them to adhere to certain conservative mindsets that he has for his church or his congregation, then he should make that clear that, you know, if you come in here with a dress that's exposing your breast or showing half your leg, I'm probably not going to, do this wedding. I'm going to want you to dress conservatively, and if that doesn't fit with what your desire for your wedding is and your wedding dress, some upfront knowledge helps before she picks the dress or, pays fully for the dress, but waiting to the wedding day, seeing it and going, no way.
Right.
He wanted her to add layers on her dress. Who can do that in minutes before they get
Oh,
married?
stupid. He's stupid.
I mean, not even if he said it at 45 minutes instead of saying where's the other half of your
And
dress.
whatever, I don't care what she was dressed in. He made a commitment to do something. And I don't care if it's uncomfortable to do what you said you were going to do or it's awkward for you. If you make a commitment, you stand by your commitment. He had
Where's the
absolutely
love
no
in-
right to do that.
Where's the love in that? Because
Exactly.
for a woman, that's the day that she gets all dressed up and she's marrying the love of her life. And for his point, to make an example of her, deal with it and speak to her in private later.
Right.
Yeah.
It's their wedding day.
We had a viewer comment about this issue directly, and it says, the issue with the dress was a strange one for me. I argued and argued against the pastor until I saw the dress. And I put myself in his place and asked myself what I would do. I'd hate to ruin someone's wedding, but I would have felt extremely uncomfortable standing on stage with her. But back to what Kimberly's saying, you've honor your word. At that point, your uncomfortableness or ruining a whole day. And the article actually goes further on to say that they kept sitting there, kept waiting. The members of the wedding party kept going to the pastor and kept trying to get him to figure out some way to proceed with the ceremony. And of course, he was saying no. So finally, the wedding guests are all out there, and they finally told the wedding guests what the problem was. And there was a minister in the audience or among the wedding guests who volunteered to perform the ceremony so the bride could proceed with her wedding day. And the pastor said, no, and it's disgraceful or disrespectful that you asked me that.
Oh, wow.
So
It's
it
all
went further.
practice.
His uncomfortableness was not just the issue.
It's a power trip on his part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly what
That's
it is.
Yes.
It's oppression of women.
Yep. You're exactly right. Another comment?
The next comment says, actually, a cheer for Esta, and it says, woot, Esta, with the evolution. The next viewer comment says, so do we need to change our cultural norms? And if so, how can we do that if you're also suggesting that we should conform to the cultural norms of a workplace, a public environment, etc.?
Well, I'm not sure that I know how to change cultural norms. It's regional. Up here in the north, it's not such an issue. People know what's appropriate. But when they go out at night, I think that there are different cultural norms available. I'm not sure. That's why I'm in this conversation.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that, but I do think we need to stop objectifying a woman's body. To dress appropriately, because of employment purposes, you're gonna get fired. But for somebody to make, that's the only reason, as not to allow somebody to get married or into a restaurant because you don't like the way that their blouse is a little bit too low. I'm not saying that we're saying we should be allowed to go topless. That's not the case. But being a little bit more accepting and not blaming women for men's uncontrollable urges and his thinking of less. That's part of sexuality. The guys really can handle that. It's not a big of a deal. But they
Right.
make it to be.
One of these, that same article I was reading from earlier about the man trying to give his son some great advice, it says also, a woman or any human being should not have to dress to get your attention. You should give them the full attention they deserve simply because that they're a fellow human being and not because of what she's wearing. And so that tells me, in the workplace or at school, if we teach our sons and daughters, don't gravitate only toward those that, to me, look pleasing or sexy on the outside or something that you're drawn to, but give everyone a shot. Not everybody can wear clothes that make somebody say, oh wow, I like to go talk to somebody that looks like that. We're all human beings, we're all the same regardless of what we wear on the outside. This man's telling his son, go and respect that person as a human being, not just because she has a low-cut dress on or it's interesting to you.
There's your point.
Right.
Yeah. And get to know people. It's really not about the dress. At this point, I think we should be able, as a society, to talk to the person and not just see women. This is, like I said, that modesty doctrine really separates, it's divisional between the sexes for relationship, for friendships. Some of these churches, it's wrong for even if you're married and you're talking to another married man, it's like taboo. I don't get that. Like, we were going to go to a healing service at one point when I was in this church, and there was another guy going. I was like, oh, pick me up because I want to go too. It's like an hour away. And he was like, no, can't do that. I'm like, why, get out of work late? I mean, like, I didn't get it. And I don't know why they think that way. It's an appearance of evil is the quote, and that's such a misuse of scripture.
Right, and I think you alluded to it earlier on in the conversation, and Ruthie has taught me a lot about this, about it, if you think something, usually that's what you would do in that situation. And I can't say that's 100% of it, but I do believe that stems, to a lot of this. I can't do this or that because I would probably, fall in love with you on the way or whatever.
Oh, come on. It comes from what we were taught. If you're going to tell a boy, oh, you can't look at a woman, you teach them these things. But then the girls too, and then you make the girls fear their own bodies. Self-loathing among teenagers is horrific.
Right.
And also, when Beyonce at the Super Bowl did her performance in her lingerie, I had 3 or 4 middle school boys and my daughter, a couple of girls, and I was very happy that the girls were in the bedroom playing a game, and those poor boys with the adults in the room, they didn't know where to hide because they're not raised that way, so it was difficult for them to see this. But this is our culture, when are we going to stop promoting it if we're going to hold girls accountable to these standards? And then to have a Christian father tweet on Twitter, watching my middle school boy and 2 high school sons get off on Beyonce, priceless. And then his daughter is locked up in the bedroom in a chastity belt. I mean, that's a little dualistic in our
that is so unfair.
Mindset. It's crazy. If you're going to say that to the boys, then you tell your daughter, go shake it.
Yeah, dress like Beyonce.
If that's what you're promoting, then go shake it. Or, teach the boys, what? Get to know women. You know?
Yeah. Admire the talent, not the costume. We have another comment.
Yeah, we've actually had one, and then another one just popped up. It's the first one that was left was, if I make a commitment to build a house, and then I find out that the person I made the commitment to did not tell me that the property sat on a swamp, then I don't feel obligated to fulfill that obligation. Commitments in my book are contingent on the expectation that I have all the necessary info. Well, there again, and what I went back to saying is, if the pastor had met with these people that he agreed to perform the ceremony for ahead of time and established his guidelines for marrying them ahead of time, then both parties would have had information to work with and would have prevented the problem. He did make the commitment. He did not set any guidelines. He was just banking on the fact that this person, who was not a member of his congregation, was going to come in there in normal wedding attire, and she was not a normal wedding attire person, and dresses are changing a lot,
Yeah.
Anybody
so-
else got anything to
well,
say on that?
It sounds like the person is saying that they're for the pastor. Did I really get that screwed up in my mind?
I don't think they were.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they're just arguing about our comment about the commitment.
No, you made the commitment comment, and we all back you up. So go ahead.
Not, well, if I was building a house for someone, they paid me to build a house, and they wanted their house built in a swamp. If that's what they want, and they committed, I'm in a contract to do it, and that's where they want their house, I put it there.
Right. I mean, if I entered into a contract with someone and they didn't fulfill their part of the contract, then I would feel like, if he had told this lady ahead of time, this is the modesty standards of this church, right.
and then she brought the dress in, then he would have something to stand on. But
True.
since, like Monica said, that was not there was no comment on that was not covered, then he's obligated to do what he said.
Right,
No,
and if
just
he
my
wasn't
opinion.
going to do it, like I said, he
And then
didn't
to
allow
prevent
somebody
someone
else
to do it, that's ridiculous.
Right. That was
That's a power trip. That's oppression. That's wielding authority. That's being judgmental. That's so legalistic in their mindset and so far from grace.
all right. We have another comment.
And the last of your comment says, it's unfortunate we have to have a conversation about female modesty in the U.S. in 2013. And I would agree, but I don't think the conversation's over. I think that there's a lot more that can be said about it. There's a lot more viewpoints, and we value the comments from our viewers and from our panelists. And
I agree, sweetheart.
And but all that being said, and I'm going to probably put the straw in the camel's back here. All that being said, and I know because I'm reasonably intelligent and fairly logical that even as old and out of shape as I am, if I wear a shirt that shows too much of me and I go to the store and somebody starts looking at my boobs,
don't gripe later.
I don't think knowing all this and as mature as I think I am, and I know what's going to happen, and do it anyway, and then gripe, that's what ticks me off.
Right.
Well, griping, I mean, if I wore a shirt that's low cut, then, and someone smiled, that would probably be the response that I wanted, and I'd probably smile back.
Right, there are people that
You see?
do dress
And that's-
that way on purpose
But who
for
said-
that purpose.
Right.
Right.
Well, not is it for that purpose. I mean, I don't think that she, if she wants to, it's beautiful body. It's, appreciate it. It's not just used for dirty sex. Sex is not dirty. Sexuality is not bad. These are all mindsets of legalistic culture that says we shouldn't lust. Well, I'm not sure exactly what lust is. I think we're talking about like people that are like constantly watching porn and they can't get it out of their minds. I mean, if you get aroused because you have a little bit of what's wrong? I mean, I don't see a big problem with that. The guy's not going to have a hard time finishing his shopping.
Yeah, well then just don't, my point is don't gripe about it later. If
Right.
they jerk it out and,
Right.
and start doing whatever, and
You just
don't gripe about it. That's on you, sister. That's the way I look at it. I mean, that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, but
Especially if
my
you're
point-
old. If you're old and still can, bring it on, you know better. You know better.
I don't know what that means. I just don't know what that means. No better of what?
You just know better.
Well, I think what she's saying, Esther Ann, is that if you know the culture of our society, and you know that it's typically looked at that if a woman bears herself, that she is going to draw attention from a man, and you wear a low-cut shirt, and then you draw attention from a man, don't go around and start having an attitude about it or having
That's what
a
I'm saying.
problem.
Oh, no,
because
no.
you
That
knew
would probably
you had
be
the
the
information and you acted on it still.
Well, that'd probably be the objective.
Right. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Is
Yeah,
Ruthie, you got anything to
absolutely.
say? I mean, you've been
Well, for me, as a courtesy, I try to not wear something that I think might offend the people I'm with.
Exactly.
But that's just me. Everybody has their own life, and they have their own standards, and I don't condemn them if they don't dress. If somebody comes in my presence dressed in a way that I don't feel comfortable with, that's okay. They feel comfortable with it, and I just don't pay any attention. and that goes male or female, you know, I mean, they're a person, and that's what you're supposed to look at. And you're supposed to try to make people comfortable and at ease and to enjoy their day. So that's me.
I think the word you used was condemnation, and that's true. Whether you like it or not, it's not your business to condemn it.
Right.
You know, that's the whole thing we want to get away from, this religious condemnation, this religious box that they've put women into, and we have to be, like you were saying, a slut, a virgin, or a wife. And let us be women. And if we want to dress with something that shows off our curves, you know, you take responsibility for yourself.
Right.
And let the guy, you know, Esther Ann brought up a point that we shouldn't have to worry about, you know, taking responsibility before the man. They should be responsible for their own reactions or actions.
Right.
All right. Any final thoughts? And then we'll go. We sure loved having you. Absolutely.
Oh, it was fun.
It was fun. I really appreciate you bringing those David Hayward Naked Pastor cartoons. They really are thought-provoking, and we really enjoy his brand of humor. And it always has this huge line of truth to it. And so,
Well, thank you for showing those pictures. They meant so much to me. And I'm just trying to have men and women really see each other for the beautiful people that we are. I love guys and I love girls, and I don't like this division.
there you go. That's right. We're all humans. Humans.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that is Reflections, and and thank you for your comments, folks, and we will see everybody next week, and we'll hope to see Esther Ann on Wednesday.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you again for having me.
You're welcome.